Friends, my name is Nizamuddin Ahmed Siddiqui and I am Assistant Professor of Law at West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. I will be taking this unit on fundamental duties under the Indian Constitution. Friends, this unit aims to fulfill the following learning objectives. Number 1, to gain knowledge about the fundamental duties besides fundamental rights and directive principles which are essential for dignified living in a society. Number 2, to understand that fundamental duties are self-abiding principles that are needed for humanity and which encourage nationality. Number 3, to be able to appreciate that the relationship between fundamental duties and fundamental rights is an important aspect of the Indian Constitution. With these learning objectives in mind, let us now get a basic introduction of fundamental duties. Fundamental duties are an imperative component of the Indian Constitution. The duties prescribe, represent some of the utmost ideals preached by our great saints, philosophers, social reformers and political leaders. No duties of the inhabitant were integrated in the unique Constitution of India at the time of its origination in 1940. However, these duties were inserted consequently by amending the Constitution in 1976. The intention was to normalize the conduct of the citizens and to bring about superiority in all the spheres of their citizenship life. Just as the directive principles of state policy set down procedures for the different governments, similarly, fundamental duties are required to draw consideration of the citizens towards the duties they owe to the nation and towards one another. But the Indian Constitution does not afford for the enforcement of the duties. There is no stipulation in the Constitution for straight enforcement of any of the above duties. Neither has there been a stipulation in the Constitution for any approval to prevent the violation of duties, nor any to implement these fundamental duties by issuing writs by the courts. However, these fundamental duties are mentioned in the Constitution and therefore there is a possibility for additional constitutional amendments. Friends, in the previous units we have understood the need for fundamental rights and we have understood also fundamental rights as human rights. Let us now try and understand the need for having fundamental duties. Rights and duties are correlative. Fundamental duties are therefore deliberate to provide a stable reminder to each and every national that while the Constitution of the country particularly confers on them definite fundamental rights, it also requires them to observe certain positive basic norms and rules of democracy to carry out their citizenship behavior. These customary duties, called as fundamental duties, therefore have been given constitutional authorization. If one takes some concern to observe, he will find out that the Constitution does not merely talk about his rights, but also his duties. A glance at the Constitution will also thus respond to the protest by some persons that the Constitution has conferred rights on the individuals, but has not set out the duties of the individuals towards the social order. The preamble of the Constitution secures to all its citizens fundamental rights, which include freedom of thought, expression, faith, trust and worship. These are some of the fundamental rights of the citizens. The rest of the preamble emphasizes duties, justice, social, economic and political. In addition to this, the fundamental rights defined by the Constitution are not unlimited rights. The state is empowered to impose reasonable restrictions and limit these rights in the concern of the society. Limitations may possibly come from time to time and may also amount to exclusion. Friends, we need to understand that the fundamental duties are a novel feature of the Indian Constitution. The 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 incorporated these duties in Article 51, Clause A of the Constitution. This was done upon the recommendation of the Swaran Singh Committee, which was constituted by the government previously the same year. Originally, fundamental rights are 10 in number in the Indian Constitution. The 86th Constitution Amendment Act 2002 has added one additional fundamental duty. Originally, fundamental duties were 10 in number. However, the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002 added one additional fundamental duty in Article 51 Clause A, which talks about an obligation of every parent or guardian to make sure that their child or ward is provided with opportunities for education. This fundamental duty covers children of the ages of 6 and 14 years. Therefore, we now have 11 fundamental duties as enshrined in the Constitution. Some of the other fundamental duties oblige citizens to value national symbols of India as well as the Constitution, to cherish its heritage, to safeguard its composite culture, and to aid in its defense. Fundamental duties also obligate all Indians to encourage the spirit of universal brotherhood, care for environment and public property, building up of scientific temper, abjuring violence, as well as to strive towards fineness in all spheres of life. Citizens are therefore ethically obligated by the Constitution to carry out these duties. Article 51 Clause A lays down the following 10 fundamental duties. It says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India, number 1, to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. 2. To cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. 3. To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. 4. To defend the country and render national services when called upon to do so. 5. To promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, regional or sectional diversities. To renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. 6. To value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. 7. To protect and improve the environment, including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compensation for living creatures. Number 8. To develop the scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform. 9. To safeguard public property and to abjure violence. And finally, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. The last one, 10. To strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. And finally, who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child or ward between the ages of 6 to 14 years. Friends, let us now try to understand the significance of fundamental duties. It is important to note that none of the constitutions of the Western countries specially offer the duties along with obligations of the citizens. Among the democratic constitution of the world, we discover certain duties of the citizens in the Japanese constitution. In Britain, Canada and Australia, the rights and the duties of the people are administered by the common man and legal decisions. The American Constitution provides barely for fundamental rights and do not refer to the duties of the citizens. It does not indicate that the people of these countries act in an irresponsible conduct. In all these countries, the citizens are imbued by means of an elevated brain of loyalty because of education and guidance in the elementary duties and obligations of nationality. The constitution of socialist countries, though, lay huge prominence on the citizens' duties. Friends, fundamental duties are, in a sense, transformation of the constitution. They have been included in the Indian Constitution to remind each citizen to facilitate what they are supposed to not merely be conscious of their rights, but also of their duties. The assorted clauses of Article 51A articulate fine sentiments. Some of the above duties are previously being imposed through ordinary law. For example, there are laws making whichever activity disrupting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India unlawful and punitive. But the magnitude of the other duties mentioned above becomes visible to be legally enforceable, for they are vague and indefinite. But a number of the other above mentioned duties become invisible with respect to their legal enforceability, since they are constructed in very vague and indefinite language. Therefore, about the enforceability of these duties, it has been held that these duties, being the duties of individual citizens, cannot be enforced through mandamus, since they direct no public duties. The duties are promoted by constitutional means. Although the significance of Article 51A lies within the fact that these clauses can take into concern in relative to interpretation of statutes and acts of the Parliament or the state legislature, particularly ambiguous statutes. The following include the impact of fundamental duties. Fundamental duties of citizens give out a useful purpose. No self-governing polity ever succeeds where the citizens are not agreeable to be energetic participants in the development of governance by assuming responsibilities along with discharging citizenship duties, whereby they come ahead to furnish to their finest in the country. A quantity of fundamental duties enshrined in Article 51A has been included in separate laws. For example, the first duty includes admiration for the national flag and the national anthem. Disrespect to these symbols is punishable by law. Friends, to assess and safeguard the rich heritage of the mosaic that is India, to be supposed to aid our people into solitary nation, it makes it clear that Article 51A will be desirable to take care of all human beings equally, to value each religion and to impound it toward the concealed sphere and not make it a bone of argument between diverse communities of the land. The most significant task, therefore, before us is towards the reconciliation of the claims of the individual inhabitant and those of the public society. To attain this, friends, it is important to familiarize the individual citizen to subsist consciousness of his social and citizenship responsibilities and so figure the society that we all turn out to be solicitous and thoughtful of the undeniable rights of our fellow citizens. Realization of our citizenship duties is as important as responsiveness of our rights. Every right implies a consequent duty, but every duty does not imply a consequent right. Men do not live for himself or themselves alone. They live for the good of others as well as individually for himself. It is this familiarity of what is precisely wrong that makes a man accountable to himself and towards the society, and the knowledge can be inculcated by imbibing the evidently understanding concept of citizenship duties in a liberal democracy. Fundamental duties are the basics of human dignity, along with national creed, color and language. Mainly the malaise of present day polity might be contained, if not eradicated, in addition to the society be uplifted. Rich or poor, in authority or absent of command, compliance with citizenship duty at every cost and risk is the core of civilized life. To conclude this unit, friends, it is submitted that the fundamental duties have not been made enforceable like fundamental rights. Nevertheless, we cannot overlook these duties as enshrined in Part 4, to be prefixed by the similar word fundamental, which we prefixed by the founding fathers of the Constitution to right in Part 3. Though Article 51A do not shed any fundamental duty of the state, the fact remains to facilitate the duty of every citizen be the collective duty of the state. Friends, we need to concentrate on the need of the duties in the context of the governance of the country. Since rights and duties are correlative, fundamental duties are therefore intended to provide, while a constant reminder to every citizen that while the Constitution specifically conferred on them certain fundamental rights, it is very well required for the citizens to scrutinize certain basic norms of democratic conduct and democratic behavior. Friends, with this we come to the end of this unit. I thank you for your patient hearing.